Oh, man. Happy Friday. Good evening. It's Freddie Vasquez with Basement Politics. Tonight, we go inside Yonkers as I have a special guest with me. I'll let him introduce himself. Join me. Forgot what my mouse was. Good evening, folks. It's Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. Tonight, we go inside Yonkers to talk about everything that's been happening. From the fire department being moved to the potential ShopRite being turned into a Whole Foods, what's happening on Woodward, and this hasn't been a good week for city employees. I'm Freddie Vasquez, and I have a special guest tonight as we go inside Yonkers. Good evening, folks. I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics. Tonight, I have a guest. I have the founder and creator of Inside Yonkers. Say hello.
Hello, man. How are you?
Good. I want you to introduce yourself. So you're live. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Anderson Flynn. I'm the CEO of Second Alarm Media, which is the founder of Inside Yonkers. And we look forward to talking tonight about a few things.
Yeah, and I reached out to you because you had put up a couple things on your page that I found to be a bit interesting, some information that not many people have been speaking about or even knew. And so I thought that, you'd be a person I'd want to speak to, right? See what you're doing over there at Inside Yonkers. So where do you want to start? I'll let you pick the topic first because a lot of stuff here.
Let's talk about how the city just recently had a brand new firehouse built.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Let's try to get it torn down.
Yeah, let's talk about that, right? So let's just start there. You started with the the fire. What was the page called where you were taking pictures of fire trucks, fire scenes? And
so about maybe it was about 15 years ago. I started Second Alarm Media.
Second Alarm Media, right? And
right.
You put a lot of pictures of fire trucks, fires in Yonkers. You very close to the fire department. You have a great appreciation for them and as well as other things. But you turned it into the Inside Yonkers page. You have 21,000 plus followers there. You have a pretty good reach. That's actually just about how many people voted for the city council president's race in total. So that's a good reach, right? And one of the things that you mentioned on your page was the fact that the newly built fire department over there on School Street, next to Chicken Island, that was built not that long ago, is now going to be demolished. And it's going to be relocated in its original location across the street. Tell me about that.
So everybody remembers when the old firehouse was at 57 New School Street. A really old building. Eventually it was condemned. There was a lot of fight about it having to be torn down. Nobody wanted it to be torn down. And then it took a few years to come up with a plan for a new firehouse. But during that time that the firehouse was condemned by Mayor Spano, the buildings department, the companies that responded out of that fire station were switched out to other stations in the city, and that actually increased some response times to some of those companies. And now we're getting this brand new firehouse being torn down within the next 5 years to satisfy a developer that has no interest whatsoever in the city.
Other than making money.
It's a little frustrating. Other than making money, of course. The taxpayers are going to lose fire coverage again in that area while they build a new firehouse to, satisfy these developers.
And let me just explain that really quick to people who maybe not, understanding why. What he's saying there is when they originally planned to build the one that they're in now, the new firehouse, what it caused was to fire the team that was there, and their special units team, right? So they deal with really heavy fires. they were forced to now relocate throughout the city while the new firehouse was being built. And so some of the team members were relocated to areas as far as, Central Avenue in the northeast side of Yonkers. And this increased response time. Many of the fires that happen here in the city of Yonkers, especially big, heavy fires, tend to happen in the southwest side of town. So that's why they're located in that area to begin with. So,
Correct.
so some of the firemen are, people within the fire department may be upset because they feel like this is again another inconvenience, another hassle, just to, appease and please a developer, AMS, who already gobbled up all of Chicken Island. Right. And now they are concerned that response times may increase once again, putting people's lives at risk. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. It's kind of ridiculous because even before the new firehouse was torn down, there was a lot of speculation as to where the new one was going to be built. They originally, the fire department, from my understanding, they wanted it built on top of where the old firehouse was, which was the original plan. I know you know the small little garage. I believe it's a accessorized spot right there on Elm Street and Palisade.
Yes. Yeah.
That's where they also thought about having the firehouse built, or even a temporary firehouse. There's several locations. So the companies that are out of Station One there on Palisade and New School Street, it's one of them is the Heavy Rescue Company, which is citywide, goes to all major calls, all fires. There's special operations unit. Think about them being for so many years being in Getty Square to being taken all the way to Central Park Avenue, Yonkers Avenue. Well, majority of their calls are in Southwest, Northwest Yonkers.
Right.
So you can already imagine the response time that it increased. You're gonna have to deal with that all over again because they want to tear down the new firehouse within the next 5 years and sit it across the street where it should have already been placed in the first place.
I wondered that when they built it there, why was it built right there and not in the original location? And then I wondered what would that mean for, the developments that I knew would be going there because AMS had purchased that, property, and so I always wondered.
Rushed. It was so rushed because I grew up at Station One, so I saw the whole process. I went through the whole process of them tearing it down and building the new firehouse. They started building it as they were tearing down the other one. It was a money hungry project, and nobody really benefited out of it. At least the fire department thought they benefited out of it at first, but now they're going to be forced to have to deal with this. And
when you say money hungry project, what do you mean by that?
Well, the developers, they're the only ones making money out of this, right?
Well, they seem to be the only ones, doing well here in the city of Yonkers. And that's something that I've been talking about on the show. And that's something that you've also mentioned as well. We love our firemen, right? And we, they play an important role in keeping us safe here in the city of Yonkers. And are the firemen's, concerns, what they want being even considered?
I can't speak on that. I haven't, I can't speak for them at all because I don't represent them. But I can tell you that there's frustration. For years also you have the Ridge Hill project that was supposed to bring in a new firehouse.
Right.
They never brought in a new firehouse, which was also promised by the developers. That whole entire area, requires a whole entire station, in which it does not. The station that covers it is the one off of Tuckahoe Road in the Sawmill. So you already imagine the traffic that they have to go through to go to Ridge Hill. This is going to be another incident going down when they tear down this firehouse. If they do, switch companies for their locations and costs, Thankfully, during those times that they were relocated, there was no deaths or serious injuries or anything like that while they were moved up. But you just never know. It's something that you don't put anybody's life in danger.
I got a comment here. Someone says the mayor Mike Spano didn't care about the black and brown people's lives at risk. It was the firefighters union that put the pressure on Spano to get the new fire station built.
Listen, the fire union representatives, they are golden. They're some of the best firemen I know, union leaders. One of my good friends, PJ Goldfeller, he's he's president now or vice president. We have they have some of the guys, Richie Rodriguez. Won't spit out all the names, but they have some of the best firefighters and leaders in the union that I've seen in any other fire department. And those guys, they work their butts off to make it very clear that, you know, they need things established. And the union worked really hard for everything that the union has won. I just don't think that the developers are an easy challenge.
Yeah, well, they have a lot of money. They have a lot of political allies. And this is what I
Right.
speak about when these developers are the ones contributing to the politicians. Who got Tasha Diaz
Right.
elected? Where
And
did
now
that money come from?
you have now also reinstated fire commissioner Anthony Pagano, which is one of the best fire commissioners there is. He's one of the ones that fought really hard to try to get the firehouse not condemned and also a new one expedited. Um,
Well, that was important. I mean, they wanted him back.
of course, he's a great leader, and when I grew up around the fire department, and he was like a dad to me. A great guy. Um, and he's always cared about the fire department. He's done absolutely everything for it. You also have Chief Folkerts. All these guys work their butts off for the fire department, man. And it's just absurd that the city isn't really caring. They don't want to give them a new firehouse for Ridge Hill. Now they want to tear down a new firehouse to please a developer. It doesn't make sense.
I agree. The firemen are very important. They're very important. They save lives, especially in a city like Yonkers that has a lot of old buildings, old wooden tenement buildings that go up quick and they're close to each other. So you can see, many times buildings go up one after another. It happened up on Maple Ave. You got like 4 buildings there that went up maybe a year ago. They're still there, burnt down, even on some other these tree streets over there. Many burnt buildings over there that have been left just like that, sitting around. So that goes to show that there's a strong need for a quick fire response time, and that it's very important that they get water on that fire right away. And I personally have seen it. I deal with property insurance fires, and I've seen what can happen when there is a delayed response to putting water on a fire. I've seen that from broken fire hydrants, which there was one on Nodine Hill that I pointed out. It got fixed right away. So shout out to DPW. And speaking of, appreciating our first responders, right? Recently, the talk has been the Yonkers police contracts. 3 years without a contract. The mayor's office and the city hall mayor saying, it's not fair to make it seem like I don't appreciate, the mayor doesn't appreciate the police department simply because he's trying to cut down labor costs. However, PBA President Keith Olson is starting to put the pressure. He recently put out an op-ed in the Yonkers Times, I believe. What do you have to say about that?
I watched the video of the ad. The video is completely opposite of the point. But to your question, Keith Olson, he's a great guy. I've met him a few times. I'm not really all that with the police department, as you've seen my posts in the past. But honestly, Yonkers Police has some of the strongest police officers there is, and I completely support them. I've, because I share my stuff and I call them out on some things, doesn't mean that I have anything against them. But one thing that they do deserve is to work under contract, man. These guys, they work their butts off. They work long hours and stuff like that.
And I agree. And there's been a recent ad that's been out that says that the average, person in Yonkers makes $35,000 a year. The average household in Yonkers makes about, I can be between 62 and 68,000. I forgot what that number was, but it was around that range, right? The average police salary is 142,000 plus, a year. The city is broke. The city can't build any more schools nor repair schools. Councilwoman Shanae Williams, out of her own mouth, says that the city school roofs are falling down. I'm debating whether or not to keep sending my kids there. Uh, you know, what do we do? I mean, and again, I can appreciate what the police do, and I have a lot of respect for them. Trust me, I do. Listen, I'm calling 911. Okay, when I need help, I'm calling 911. Uh, so what do you say to that, though? How do we say we appreciate you, police, but also, negotiate a contract that may not be what PBA President Keith Olson is looking for?
Look, they go through this almost every 10 years. They went through this a few years ago where they started having some officers not show up or leaving the department for other departments. The city, it kind of reminds me of Mount Vernon a little bit when it comes down to the money. It's being put where it doesn't need to be put, and instead of the schools. Schools have been run down for a while. Let's be honest here. The schools have been run down for a while now. I'm sure you finished school in Yonkers. I finished school in Yonkers, and I recall
I went to school for a while in
down.
Yonkers. And I went to school outside of Yonkers, which is why I can truly understand, how much Yonkers schools are in need. I can appreciate that. And, that's one of the things that I mentioned on my podcast is the money. Where did the money go? Right? Because we're supposed to have the money in order to, repair and build new schools. We're supposed to have the money to negotiate healthy and fair contracts for all the departments, right? I mean, because it's not just police. We have to shut out DPW. I mean, those guys do a lot of work. They do heavy lifting. They keep our streets clean. They make sure that my garbage is clean. They put it back, right away, nice and neat. I appreciate that. And they just do a lot of things. They keep our parks, parks department, they keep our parks clean. They recently did a lot of things in the parks. And people may have their criticism. I understand. Listen, we can criticize anything. We can find a criticism for everything if we want to, right? But we're supposed to have this money. Where is this money going? And now we have these developers that are coming in, spending billions. I'm talking about billions of dollars, promising us the world and delivering us peanuts.
Nothing.
Or nothing, right? Let's say nothing, because I don't think we got peanuts, or if we got them, they don't have the salt on them, like we're very limited to what they're actually giving us. I mean, it really boils down to OSHA trainings, and they can't even deliver on that, right? And so who is it? Where's the money going, and whose job is it to see that this money is managed correctly and that we don't have these issues?
Should have a city controller, but then again, that might just be one of Spano's family members, So honestly, if that being the case, it really becomes difficult. Look at the Yonkers Zoning and Planning Board; it's all Spano. It's ridiculous. It's really hard to tell where this money is going towards. But we can all say one thing: all the Spanos have it, and they know what they're doing with it. They don't want to tell anybody. For instance, the whole firehouse thing. It's a big wake up, because it goes to show how they're using the money and how they're wasting it.
And look. Let's just put it out there, right? Because people say, Freddie, you haven't been speaking about the Spanos, and why aren't you going after the Spanos more? And and everybody wants me to bring up Nick Spano, and let's call out the elephant in the room. Right?
Nobody remembers Mike Spano lost the first few times he tried to go for any other office. Nobody remembers that. A lot of people don't remember. Spano lost a few times. I know, because I was a Spano supporter. I was a Spano supporter in middle school, high school. He's a family friend. But, there's a fine line when you can be a friend and you just know that this guy's your mayor and he sucks as the mayor. He's a good friend, but he sucks as the mayor. Sorry to say,
Yeah, and so I was gonna say, a lot of people, they bring up Nick Spano, they bring up Mike Spano. They say, Freddie, you got to bring up the Spanos. You don't bring up Nick Spano a lot. Nick Spano. Nick Spano runs the town. Nick Spano is the mayor. Nick Spano is the mayor of the city, the true mayor of the city.
It's like what they say about Biden. Biden's not the one running the country.
Right.
Neither is Spano. Mike Spano.
Nick Spano, remember?
Right. So remember how much money and their background.
Yeah,
Nick
I mean,
Spano's background is realty.
right. And that's one thing that people have mentioned to me, Freddie. How does Nick Spano have a real estate contract? I mean, a real estate license. He has what is it? Empire Strategic Planning is a lobbying firm. Many of these developers are paying, monthly for his lobbying service. That is how they are receiving much of these properties that the city has recently sold off. Yes, that is all true. Everybody knows it because everybody's telling me about it. Right?
It goes down to this. You see all those cones around Yonkers that say "Sam the doll" on it.
Yes.
Why is it that a city the size of Yonkers that would typically have its own plumbing division, part of DPW, or some cities they will hire more than one contractor. You know what I'm saying?
And so that's my point. That's what I want to get to in a second. Just this is the point I'm trying to make, right? And everybody knows this, okay? So those who say, Freddie, this is what's going on. Why didn't you talk about it? Because I can talk about it till I'm blue in the face. At the end of the day, if people don't take action, it means nothing because everyone knows. Everyone says
Right.
it. It's not really something that if I'm saying to you guys, you're going to be like, what? Really? I didn't know that. So here's what I'm trying to tell you. What maybe people don't seem to know because it doesn't seem to happen. We have to vote for these individuals out of office, right? The
Start
Lakeisha
with
Collins Bellamy's. I'm sorry. You came out of Macy, came out of nowhere, no disrespect. But once you guys are trying to get me jammed up on that porn thing, that's it. You know what I mean? We're not cool no more. All right. That's the setup. Right, the corruption is all up in Macy with Wilson Kimbo, right? So we got to get the Lakeisha Collins Bellamy. She was never supposed to be there, right? It's time for Corazon to go. I'm sorry, sweetheart. You're very immature. You need to grow up. And politics is not where you belong. And you're there for a reason because they use you. That's it. Point blank. Period. Right? Tasha
I've
Diaz,
never heard of these
please.
people.
Tasha Diaz, why is this woman in politics in the third largest city in New York? Right? Over 200,000 people. Let's just be honest. At least we have to have some minimum requirements here, right? Shanae Williams, she's not even prepared for meetings. We should just fire her. We, the people, if you're not prepared for meetings, you get fired because none of you are doing your jobs. Because you can say whatever you want about the mayor. He's been here forever. And guess what? His term is up. So if you're really that tired of Mike Spano, then make sure that these term limits don't get eliminated, right? Because that should be the focus, and that's what everybody should be talking about, right? And then we should make sure that when 135 is up next year, that we make sure that none of them who are in there now return and so on and so forth, because it is their job, that is their primary job, the city council, to review that budget. And they have been mismanaging this money forever. I'm reviewing some things, $192,000 just for 5 RAV4s. Who are the ones that drive the RAV4s? The city council,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Why do they have these cars when there's a part-time jobs, when there's so many people in Yonkers that don't have a job because they can't find one, or maybe they don't want one, whatever reason, they're unemployed, right? Or people that do have a job are hustling and bustling, taking a bus, maybe 2 buses just to get to that job, then taking 2 more buses to get to a second job to make half of what they're making, right? Even though they're making 50,000 maybe a year still. Okay. And there's a lot of people struggling, and the perks that they get and all those contributions from all of those developers that they protect and say that they're going to hold accountable, right, are the ones that are putting money in their pocket and they're sustaining their lifestyle now. Because look at Tasha Diaz. It's like Cinderella, right? She must have got $1 million recording contract the way she went from where she was delivering food as a community leader to today, and what she wears and how she styles and profiles, right? So we the people have to say, that's what we need to do. These are the elections coming up. Yes, the mayor seat's coming up, but again, who are we going to vote for? Right? We have to see what's happening here. They're mismanaging money. There's all these organizations also that are getting so much money. I was going through some of these books, and I'm like, why are these individuals getting the same money? Certain businesses always getting money, right? Why do they have Tom Daly $70,000 a year, and they want to get on Mike Cater about a $70,000 a year quick quote pro that he gave Smith Bus Jacobs, who is their friend, who donates $4,000, $10,000, $6,000 to their campaigns. But all of a sudden, they can't get a $70,000 a year job, the same $70,000 a year job that Tom Daly currently has. And what's that position? He's giving advice, right? He provides advice to the corporate counsel. Why would they need to pay a lawyer $70,000 a year to provide advice to another lawyer? Then skip out the other lawyer in the middle and just hire Tom Daly directly, I guess, and make him corporate counsel, right? So that's a waste of money. And why did they do that? Because they dissed Tom Daly for what's her name? I was gonna say Anita Baker.
They want to have full control.
I was gonna call her Anita Baker. Ada Medina, who is supported by listen, Ada, how can you be a judge, Ada? Right? How can I have faith in you to uphold the law when you're funded by a corrupt criminal, a felon, 2-time felon? What world do we live in? It's a circus. It's a circus. It's a circus.
Like, you know, when you go to a job you really want, and they tell you you're not going to get it because you don't know anybody there, but you get the job once you know somebody in there. That's how it works there.
And a lot of the guys at DPW are tired of it because not all of them, you know, have an issue with me.
DPW is honestly the first one there, but all of DPW, man, huge shout out to them. They're the hardest working DPW.
Yeah, because not all of them are there. You know, not all of them are there because of, you know, some of them, and a lot of the guys work hard. They're honest, hardworking guys. And listen, if you can get a little leverage in this world, why not take it, right? But they're not nefarious, right? I mean, and they're not the ones really making the big bucks. Let's talk about the individuals that are making the big bucks that have been there forever. Like, what's that guy's name? The Inspector General, I forgot his name. Liam McLaughlin. I wonder if he has anything to do with downplaying what's going on over there in McLean. Let's talk about it. 16-year-old boy gets killed, hit and run.
He's been in Yonkers for how long now? 30 plus years.
Doing what?
Liam McLaughlin. He's been helping everybody run everything. He's been around everywhere. But seriously, the DPW, they work. You're absolutely right. They work their butts off, and they do the utmost, especially during the blizzards, snowstorms, and floodings and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Shout out to DPW guys, because again, you know, I you know, people get on them because they say, oh, those DPW guys get special, you know, the job because as a favor, this, that, and the third. Listen, you know what? You know who the ones we got to go? The ones that are getting $120,000, like Michael Sabatino, for absolutely nothing. Nothing. His hubby was raking in a bunch of taxpayer money until he retired recently, I hear. Right? So those jobs that they create, that $100,000, that's wasteful spending. And the city council does nothing but vote 7-0 every time, whatever, 6-0, 7-0, because they go there already knowing what they're going to vote. Right? That's why Shanae Williams doesn't even take the time to prepare. Why do I have to prepare? I mean, they're telling me what to say. So I can go and be with my, you know, cool cup coffee sipping, you know, Starbucks, you know. I'm from the hood, right? And one of the things I don't like as a dude from the hood is the people that's colored, you know, black and Hispanic, and they try to be like all uppity and stuff. Please. Okay, like your ish don't stink. Okay, let's cut it out. All right. I don't like that uppity nonsense. But yeah, but I want to talk about that, you know, condolences to the family. Rest in peace to a 16-year-old boy who was hit by a man driving a white van who fled the scene on McLean Avenue. The man worked for DPW, but that's not the issue there. What issue is, why did he leave, and why isn't he being charged with manslaughter? Why do you think?
He was probably under the influence. I can't speak for anyone, but you know, manslaughter. If you there's a fine line where you could probably, you know, it happens. For instance, like if it's loud outside or you have music blasting and you think you might have hit a curb, or you didn't see him hitting, you know, you didn't see somebody in front of you, or I'm not quite sure how it went down. But
Look, I tapped
if
a girl.
to be charged with manslaughter, you either were intoxicated or you were
Well, I think
driving
if you left the
reckless.
scene, that you should be charged with manslaughter. I think, because what if you stopping and getting the person help right away could save their life, right? So I think that's
That's
manslaughter. I
true.
don't think hitting a person is gonna feel like a bump. Maybe I did tap someone once. Okay, I was in front of the bank. I was pulling. I backed up, but it was her fault. And even the guy behind me said she ducked behind my car to get her earbud. I couldn't see her, so I tapped her. Thank God I was backing up slowly, but I felt that, and I immediately got out, and I didn't hurt her or anything. So I can imagine you hitting something to a human to the point where you kill him and not noticing. And so what I think happened, and this is just my opinion, I'm not saying what actually happened. I think that this is what people do when they're drunk. They leave because they rather say, "Hey, I'd rather flee the scene, try to get the alcohol out the system." You know what I mean? And then they come and get me, because if they get me there with the alcohol in the system, then they got me with the alcohol, right? And that's going to be manslaughter. Look what they're charging him with.
Sometimes you're even too messed up to even think that through. When I was a firefighter years ago, I had a guy that crashed through a whole entire sign at an entrance to a community, and cops couldn't find him. When they went to his house, the guy was sleeping, passed out in his bed,
He was
and didn't
drunk.
even notice. Yeah, he was highly intoxicated.
Well, listen. Well, they got the video, and many people are saying, well, where was he drinking at? Because some people are saying he was drinking. Where was he at, and how many beers did he have? And there's a common, thing that I hear from many people about, certain, bars being protected. I don't want to say the names. There's no proof, and that's, so I don't want to do that. But certain bars, businesses being, protected. Fights breaking out, and stuff like that. And so, I'm wondering if this is why maybe they want to, because they're trying to protect certain businesses, just from getting that. Because I'm surprised it's not like, and then he hasn't been fired yet, correct?
I haven't heard him being fired. No, I just know of any city employee being fired so far is
Well,
Yonkers firefighter.
right. I was going to say that. And that's another thing I wanted to bring up. The Yonkers fireman who was recently arrested. Now, listen, I don't know. They're both to me the same level of, if he was drinking that and an individual and that happened and then he left, that's just as bad as what this fireman did from the city of Yonkers, luring children in an attempt to have sex with them down in Atlantic City. And I just had an
Like
episode about this.
I don't work for the Yonkers Fire Department. I don't represent them, but I can tell you one thing, and just this is that this gentleman does not represent this department at
Oh no, I
all.
wouldn't say that.
He's completely he's on the job for 2 years. He just got out of probation.
Even if he was on the job for 10, 20 years.
Yeah, you're right.
That should never represent the entire department.
You're absolutely right, but it's absolutely disgusting, man. There's just plenty of fish out there. There's no reason you should be doing that. You're damaging the look of a city. You just started a great career with the best fire department in the world, and he just ruined that for himself. So
it's a job that's really coveted and a lot of people want, but and he ruined it because that's not a normal thing. That's a sickness. There's something just truly wrong with individuals who do that and they can't stop. And this is why when I identify them, I don't give them any breaks. And if read between the lines, no breaks, because they're known to reoffend, and that's just what it is. Like you said, he risked a great job with a great fire department, one of the best in the country, right? He would have had a great life, and he ruined that for something so disgusting. But he's been fired right away. Now, the DPW guy wasn't fired right away. He did leave the scene. Now, are they still, is it because they haven't determined whether he knew he hit somebody, or why do you think that he hasn't been fired?
Most likely because they're probably letting the charge speak for itself. It's manslaughter. He won't be out anytime soon, so he won't have a job. That's obvious. But honestly, let's go back a little bit just for real quick. Do you remember the detective that died on Fort Hill Road a few years ago? Nasty accident.
Okay, yeah.
Well, it wasn't said out loud by much people. He was a DUI. That was So the problem with Yonkers is, these city officials, they'll have family working within every single agency that Yonkers has. The police department, fire department, DPW, sanitation, everything. So this was a case of that,
Right.
and they used their discretion. It didn't make the news that he was intoxicated.
Mm. I
So
haven't heard about it being actually drunk. I didn't read that anywhere or being intoxicated, but I have heard people commenting, and look, if it's anything like when we grew up in the street knows, the street talks, usually better than what the news is saying. So people are talking and
absolutely,
stuff like that. And so one of the things that many people are saying is go see where he was drinking at. Ask the bartender how many drinks he had, and that's comments that I saw. So I'm gonna let the investigation do what the investigation does. Freddie Vasquez doesn't
yeah,
have any information about it specifically, and I'm not saying we just having a conversation. Okay, we're just talking about it.
absolutely.
The sad thing is that a 16-year-old boy is no longer here, and I can't even imagine being his parents.
And it's pretty rough. My kids, I would hate to lose my kids, man. It's pretty sad. You know. Um,
Yeah, that's I can't even imagine being those parents right now. I could not. And so my condolences, I send my prayers out to them, you know, and so I wish, God just covered them, put his hands on them and just try to get them through it the best way he can. There's no way to even no words you can say to them. Just pray for them, That's it. Mike Spano did the right thing with firing that fireman. That was definitely the right thing to do. I don't even want to know about it, but at least, investigation with that, sexual luring children, you're done. We don't even want to wait. I think that was a great move there. Let's go over real quick before I let you go. We already a half hour. I just want to talk about the ShopRite thing. You mentioned that. How did you know or hear about that? Not that I'm saying actually to tell sources, but what led you to put that post?
we found out because we've been trying to find. There's been somebody has been snooping around the store. CVS is right on top of ShopRite. So we've been we've been working. One of my staff members for Inside Yonkers, uh, is really good in finding out these information with developers and stuff like that. So we we realized there's been a change at ShopRite. Change of some management, and there's been just less activity, and there's been other businesses in the area being, you know, offered to have their land bought instead of their buildings bought out so they can be demolished for new development.
Yeah,
Um,
I heard about that. I heard about the meat market on Ashburn and Woodworth, not Woolworth. I always thought it was Woolworth. I swear, I always thought it was Woolworth. Woodworth. I don't know why.
yeah.
Woodworth. And from what I hear, the guy pretty much got a strong arm. They basically said, take this offer, or you're going to have to knock this building down and rebuild it if you want to maintain your business here. And after being there so long, he's elderly. He's older, I should say. He said, why would I do that? So he moved actually the business to Jersey. So he will be closed for good come January. And so Great Point Studios, guys, is taking up everything on Woodworth. And just wait till they get, and if they haven't already, down to where the people live, the residentials, There's a lot of people there.
You saying that he moved to Jersey, this is a loss of jobs here.
Absolutely.
Because I guarantee you, John Doe that works at that meat shop, lives in Yonkers, is a hardworking resident, and is not going to be able to afford or have the time to be traveling back and forth from Jersey, to go work there. It happened to my mom a few years ago. They had the company in Yonkers, and the company was told they have to move out.
Yeah.
They moved to a whole different state. My mother lost her job.
And they talk about
They don't
bringing
think
jobs.
about this.
No, they're not. They're not thinking about it, but they are talking about bringing in jobs. And so this is why it's very important that we elect individuals that are competent individuals that can understand and analyze. And even if they have the best interest, they need to be competent. Because even if you have the best interest and you're not really competent, you're going to get manipulated, right? So we need strong, competent people who are not looking to benefit off the city because they may be already having, come in a successful individual and truly want to make the city great. Someone that's from this here that doesn't plan on leaving, wants to build this place up right, wants to go over everything, cut the fat, right, and start to put a lot of the monies where it belongs, into our schools, because the children is where we need to invest most. And if we are living in a city that the majority, or that the average person makes $35,000 a year, and the average household income is not even more than what I think was between 62 and 68,000. I forget the number exactly. Then why are they bringing in so many luxury developments? That right there
Wow.
says everything.
Yep. And standard rent prices
They're not
skyrocketed.
They're not for the average person in Yonkers, but they're building so many.
Yep.
So if the average person is the majority, why are they building majority luxury rentals?
Look at the ones they've already built. Half of them are empty.
Well, that's because people are not ready to move here yet. Once Lion Studios gets rocking and rolling, I have no doubt that will be built up. This has happened before. This happened in Georgia. Studio came, they built up this studio. They call it the Hollywood of the South. You heard Tasha Diaz saying, we're going to be the Hollywood on the Hudson. It's all wash, rinse, repeat. Wash, rinse, repeat. Yeah. If you look at all the different cities, you're going to see sustainable energy this, sustainable energy that city. The federal government is funding every municipality. They strategically and systematically are giving billions of taxpayer money, and these developers and these elected officials understand this, and they're taking full advantage of it, building things up. They don't care if they fill up anyway. They don't really care, because a lot of it has been subsidized anyway. A lot of it, they get tax breaks. They get all these kinds of breaks. They get the land for less than market value. They get all these federal grants because they sell it as a climate change facility. And then what we ultimately get is a venue for the very rich who can afford the $300 a plate meals. And that's why they are knocking down the ShopRite and that CVS to bring in a Whole Foods, because people who pay $300 a plate don't go to ShopRite. They go to Whole Foods. Nope. And if you look at the CVS, that's why they haven't really stocked their, their shelves, really. I'm like, what's going on here, CVS? You guys don't really stock your shelves up anymore. They haven't had a lot of different items forever. And like, they must be going soon. It's like, they know. We've been knowing for a few years now. Why would we bring inventory here and keep stocking up the shelves when we're just trying to get rid of what we have, right? So we have to learn to read between the lines. And that's why I, appreciate what you're doing, because you're helping people read between the lines. And that's what I'm trying to do. Help people read between the lines. It's very simple. It's just this simple. Just think about this. The average person in Yonkers makes $35,000 a year. They can never afford to live in those market rates. They wouldn't qualify. They wouldn't let them in there. So why are they building so many? Why are they knocking down so many buildings and businesses to develop studios and luxury market? If the majority of the people, the average person, makes only $35,000 a year, they're going to replace people. Shanae Williams said it. It's not just about bringing in the people from Brooklyn and Manhattan. That's what she said. She knows the plan.
She knows the plan. She can't just say it all. Yeah. Real quick, you remember the McDonald's in Getty Square that burned down?
Yeah, the one that I feel was burned down on purpose, but I'm just speculation.
Come on, we all know it was, man. With second alarm media, this was, I believe, a year or two before I started inside Yonkers. I was in that area, and I kid you not, there's nobody in that area. It was but empty. I was actually waiting to have my wife come out of work. She got off at around 10, 11 o'clock, and man, I got home, and all I see is smoke from Lamartine coming from Getty Square. And
I think, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. We went, we did our thing and whatever, and the speculation has always been, it's been burned down for new development. And this is a strategy that cities have done before. I just haven't been able to get my.
Well, what also could be is this, and I'll say, I'll leave this, before I end the show here. I have a friend. Oh, had a friend who they took his property. It's called eminent domain, right? And I'm hoping maybe they'll do this to Layla Gorin over there eventually for that power plant. Eminent domain. They can take your property because the city deems it as necessary for certain reasons that they can do that with, and then they'll go ahead and knock it down without you saying okay, and then they'll offer you half. Right, they will, and then you're gonna have to, because I've seen this happen to a friend. You have to go to court and then fight them now for I don't know how many years to get full market value, right? Because he had $1 million property, they knocked it down and offered him less than $500,000. You're like, no way, I didn't even want to, knock it down in the first place. So what maybe some people, business owners, might do is burn the building down first before the city knocks it down, and then they collect full insurance proceeds from the insurance company. I don't know. That's just a strategy. I would just say maybe that's something that
it's also another strategy is also burn it down, write a grant at the end of the year, say, hey, our firefighters responded to this fire, we need more money, and they get the grant.
Well, listen, I love our firemen, but I will say this. I know that's why you'll see like 3 or 4 fire trucks for like, old lady having breathing trouble. Listen, I'm just joking. I don't knock it. Listen, like I say, if you have a job where you can potentially lose your life, you need to be compensated good for that, okay? Because if there's a chance that one day you may not come home and see your family, you need to be compensated well for that. That's all I'm saying. That's me. That's my personal opinion. All right, you got to pay me good if you want me to risk you want bullet shooting at? I got to go in that fire. Sure. Anyway, I appreciate you joining me tonight. I definitely would love to do this more. I think it was great. We'll definitely talk off air, and some more and about possibly doing that. But folks, I hope you appreciate it. This podcast is a bit different. I had my guy from inside Yonkers, who's been doing a great job covering a lot of what's been happening in Yonkers, and plans on only getting even bigger and covering even more and bringing you the things that you may not know that's going on here in the city of Yonkers. Is there anything you want to say before I let you go?
I want to give a huge shout out to my staff at Inside Yonkers for being the team that they are, helping get everything that we need to get out there. And also to Anthony Pagano, Yonkers Fire Commissioner, on returning and doing the hard work that he does to run the fire department, as well as Chief Folkerts. Those guys keep up a good job, and I just want to tell you, next time we talk, I want to bring out about how Empress takes an hour to respond to emergency.
Let's do that. We'll talk off air. We'll schedule that podcast, because actually I like this. I think it was very informative. So we definitely want to do that. So that's something maybe they can look forward to. How Empress is taking too long to respond to emergency calls, and that can cost lives. I'm Freddie Vasquez with Inside Yonkers. Thank you, folks, for joining us tonight. I appreciate it. Hope you appreciated this. I appreciate Inside Yonkers for coming on the show. This is Basement Politics. And I will see you mañana, possibly. I may take a day off. I need a rest, but definitely we'll see you on Sunday. And check out the CPS, human child trafficking episode from yesterday. As you can see, it hit close to home. As a member of the Yonkers Fire Department, a new member was arrested for attempting to lure children in Atlantic City. And again, as we mentioned, that does not reflect the entire fire department. And no one person should ever be reflection of the whole. I'm Freddie Vasquez. Thank you. Have a blessed night. Happy Friday. Thank you, folks, for joining me. I am Freddie Vasquez. That was your Basement Politics episode for tonight. It's a mixed bag on Friday. We talk about a bunch of different things. I hope you find it very informative. Have a blessed night. Enjoy your weekend.
Freddie wins. Fatality. No!